The Everything Sequel Podcast is brought to you by the Vegas Beer Guys and the Everything Sequel Podcast. The Everything Sequel Podcast contains explicit language. 'Cause we learned it from you, Dad. Hello and welcome to the Everything Sequel Podcast. This is a Ghoulies edition. Today, we're talking Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College. It's the only colon in the series. My name is Michael Schatz of the How Dare You Awards. Joining me, the man trying to flush me down the toilet, Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions. Say hello, Tom.
The Ghoulies have no dicks. Yes, the only time that Ghoulies is said in any of these sequels, and it's because it's Ghoulies Goes to College, it's in the service of a dick joke.
Of a dick joke, right.
Yeah.
Did I say you were trying to flush me down the toilet in the last episode, too? I can't remember.
Maybe, but it's entirely appropriate because this is the movie where Ghoulies and toilets become synonymous,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And you said there's no colon in the series except for all the butts going on toilets. Luckily, we don't get any colon shots. But
Right.
we got a lot of swirling toilet bowls.
If you were going to get the shot of a leathery ghoulie anus, I think it'd be in this one.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about the ghoulie anus. I was thinking about a human anus. Now you've made me think of a ghoulie anus.
Well, I apologize. How could you not be thinking of a ghoulie anus?
Well, I've been thinking... This movie makes me think of every other genital that the Ghoulies possess.
Right.
Specifically the ones that might become erect when they become aroused, as they do frequently in
They are
in this
horny.
movie.
These fucking ghoulies are horny in this movie.
They are the horny and drunk.
Yeah.
And also, you know, pranksters.
Yeah, pulling yanks.
It's sort of like they're pranks plus murder, right? The murder is kind of a secondary to the pranks,
All right.
which I guess is why what makes it a college movie as opposed to a horror movie.
But all the humans that are pulling pranks in this movie, they call them yanks, which
Do they never say pranks either? Is that also
I think they do say pranks,
taboo
but
word?
far more often
They couldn't get the
they're
they couldn't
calling
get the
them
rights
yanks.
to pranks.
And it makes me deeply uncomfortable.
Well, what's the name of that show? Because there's form here, isn't there? Of not. Maybe Big Prank doesn't let you use the word without licensing it because Crank Yankers
Yeah.
seems to be going out of its way to not use the word prank. You've got crank and yank, but not prank, and then all they're doing is pranking people. So there must be.
I had a
some
good
kind of
sports joke for that,
proprietary-
but it'd be lost on you.
What is something that happened in Crank Yankers?
No, I was gonna say maybe Pat Riley owns the phrase prank because he owns three-peat. So whenever any team in sports does a three-peat, they got to pay Pat Riley some money to use three-peat.
He's a commentator, right?
No, he's a former coach. He coached the Lakers to 5 championships, I think. Coached the Knicks. They didn't ever win a championship, but they were perennially always very good with him as a coach. And now he's an executive with the Miami Heat, and he's won them a couple championships.
So where did he come up with the word 3P?
When the Lakers won 3
And he copyrighted it?
in a row. Yeah, and he copyrighted it.
Smart guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. This is great. I like the idea of. I like the idea that I could make my fortune coming up with a
phrase for T-shirts.
Knowing that I know people are going to use on a regular basis.
Yeah, right.
Although honestly, I really wish I'd copyrighted the word Ghoulies because I've already broken the promise I made to myself after listening to our first episode, our ranking episode. I've never heard two humans use the word Ghoulies as many times as we did in that episode.
Well, why would they?
Well, I know, but at some point it was like Santa's little helpers POV. You know, the episode kind of just descended into blah 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 Ghoulies, blah 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 Ghoulies, Ghoulies, blah 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 blah. It was it was maddening at one point. At one point, I could only pick out the word Ghoulies in anything we were saying.
That's fantastic.
And of course, the irony being that it's never really it's said once in any of these movies. So we're ahead of the movies by about 7,000 usages of the word ghoulie.
Sorry, listeners.
No, well, I could just imagine people are just like, you know, stop saying ghoulie in there. Who's going to Hawaii? Am I going to Hawaii? Stop saying Hawaii in there.
Well, here we are. We're talking Ghoulies 3. Ghoulies Go to College. It's a 1991 film with 25% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, that's exactly a quarter of a rating, of 100% rating.
Yeah, I mean that's a more than 10% bump from Ghoulies 2.
I think that's a huge achievement. I think that goes to what we were saying about the begrudging respect you have to have for a movie like Ghoulies Goes to College.
Yeah, right.
Which, by the way, I don't know. I'm not seeing this Ghoulies 3 Ghoulies Goes to College anywhere. Every time I look it up, it's just Ghoulies Go to College. With, interestingly, the Go capitalized, but
right?
not the 2.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
okay.
all I see.
Oh, interesting, though. It says, on IMDb, it says original title, Ghoulies 3 Ghoulies Go to College. So I guess, I don't know, when they released the Criterion Collection, they changed the title. Although this is... because we're doing Ghoulies now, my algorithm is giving me like ghoulie news, ghouls. What is goose? So on my Facebook feed, I saw they are releasing a Blu-ray set of the Ghoulies movies. Of Ghoulies Goes to College is coming out on Blu-ray.
All right.
So, yeah, why do you think they took the? And on the posters it says Ghoulies 3.
Yeah.
But the title is always online when you look it up. Ghoulies. There's a story.
It's weird because the poster only says Ghoulies 3.
Yeah.
The title on IMDb says Ghoulies Go to College, but underneath it says original title Ghoulies 3 Ghoulies Go to College.
There's a story there. We're gonna have to unearth that.
I think part of it is somebody woke up and said, "Why the fuck are we putting Ghoulies twice in our title? It's got to be one or the other. Ghoulies Go to College or Ghoulies 3. Ghoulies 3 Ghoulies Go to College."
Putting a word from the title in the subtitle.
Yeah.
Have we ever seen that before?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, Die Hard 2.
Oh no, I was just gonna say Die Hard 2. Yeah.
That's both Die and Hard is in the subtitle.
Yeah.
In fact, that's most of the subtitle. The only thing it adds is
Well, this movie's directed by an old friend.
Oh, very much so. Yes, John Carl.
John Carl Buechler.
Buechler. It would be Buechler, wouldn't it, with that UE?
I guess.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah, I didn't embrace the UE in his name there.
Well, we know that he's in our lives because of Friday the 13th, The New Blood.
Yeah.
I don't know if I assume we went over this before, but here are some of his other fare. The Dungeon Master, Troll.
Yeah, which we'll do on Patreon at some point.
At some point, yeah.
Yeah.
Cellar Dweller. Watchers Reborn. Deep Freeze. Curse of the 49er. Thought that was pretty funny.
Speaking of sports trivia.
Yeah. He did a movie called The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde that I'd never seen of or heard about.
Jekyll and Hyde's a little bit like Frankenstein. That the people
they're just constantly making them.
A copyright loophole that you can kind of constantly make movies about that. I guess it must be, and it's unlicensed.
Yeah.
It's written long enough ago. Robert Louis Stevenson was no Pat Riley. He didn't get down to the
Yeah.
patent office and copyright Jekyll and Hyde.
Well, the last movie he directed was in 2021, and that was 15 years after The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I almost said Mrs.
But interesting, you know, he directs, but he's
also a special effects guy.
He's a practical creature effects person.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of movies he works on in that capacity.
But the last movie he did was called Wizard Dream, but only with one D, all one word.
Wizard Dream. Okay.
Wizard Ream.
What Wizard Ream? Is it a porn movie? Is it just a series of like the characters from Harry Potter getting fucked?
Let's find out. Well, normally where the plot would be, it says, add a plot in your language.
What language would that be?
Yeah.
The language of bad sequels?
Yeah, that's great.
Well, yeah. It's kind of interesting because
Malcolm McDowell's in it.
Okay, well, it's 2021 and Malcolm McDowell do not mix.
Yeah.
Isn't that around the time he was doing like commercials for pizza rolls?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, he's playing like a teen man-child in those as well. Yeah, look it up. I can't remember the exact company, but it's Malcolm McDowell dressed as like, you know, when Steve Buscemi is the undercover cop in is it Happy Gilmore or one of those Adam Sandler movies when he's pretending to go to school but he's an adult?
Oh, is it Billy Madison?
Billy Madison, yeah. And he's like greetings fellow students.
Yeah. God, I forgot
that
about
kind of
that.
vibe.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I have no money corner for this movie because it's a straight-to-video movie.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. And that's a credit to the movie because I never thought about that either.
Good.
Not to say it's...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, now that you say it, I'm like, yes, of course.
That makes nothing but sense.
That makes nothing but sense. But you know, I'm not saying it's inherently cinematic in any way, but it feels like a movie that could have got a theatrical release easily.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, all those Revenge of the Nerds movies did, right?
I think so.
It's the film debut of Matthew Lillard, for God's sake.
Yeah. It's so funny to see him, like, tall and gangly, just sort of moving in the background of every shot and not speaking.
Right. Yeah.
And it's funny because... This sounds weird to say, but I was thinking about Matthew Lillard not too long ago, because I realized when I first saw him in Scream...
Yes.
I had one of those thoughts of like, who the fuck is that actor?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure he's an actor. I think they literally just found somebody that is that person. That's how I would say good he is as that character. But to see him sort of still doing movies in roles where I think he was like, you know, he's still around. I don't know. He's just one of those teen guys that have stuck around. And I'm like, good for Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, and I used to feel the same about Timothy Olyphant. And granted, I don't think Matthew Lillard has done anything.
No, yeah.
You know, like a Deadwood or a Justified or anything like that. But it's a similar situation. When I first saw Timothy Olyphant, I was like, is this an actor or is this just is this just the right guy to play this role?
Yeah, right.
Also, Jason Scott Lee.
Yeah.
Which feels like a kind of very much a John Hughes Asian college movie character.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's still working today. I saw him the other day in the live action remake of Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, okay.
So he's yeah. I mean, but I had that thought throughout this movie. Like this is the most star driven, both retrospectively and contemporaneously, of the Ghoulies movies. This movie has the most star power, I think.
That's true.
Of the Ghoulies movies, which you wouldn't expect, and also makes me wonder why it couldn't get a theatrical release because of all of them. This is kind of the most cinematic in terms of the people in the movie.
True.
They're not TV actors. Yeah, and I think it's also I'm not going to say black don't crack, but I think it's a brown don't frown situation because he looks about a day older than he looks here in Lilo and Stitch in 2025.
Okay.
He's got a beard, and that's the only thing that makes him look older than 23.
You know, I've never seen any version of Lilo and Stitch. Not the movie.
I hadn't seen the animated original. I was mildly impressed by this. I feel like it was a good.
I heard it's one of the better live action remakes.
Well, it's a good. There's. I don't think it's not a classic, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not Snow White, so I think it's there's definitely room for live action remake here, and it's one of those areas where Disney's probably more cognizant of native cultures and
right
featured in their movies at this point, so that's really helpful as well. The kind of the wokeness lends itself to the fact that the characters in the movies are from native communities, whereas
yeah.
Although I suppose you could make the same argument that you could represent the dwarfs as somewhat representative of the little person community rather than making them goblins, even more goblin-like even less human than they are in the animated.
Yeah,
the original
right.
Animated version.
Well, did you notice that obvious recent Lionsgate logo?
Yes, indeed. I think that's the other reason that this is coming out on Blu-ray, is that it's been purchased by Lionsgate.
Okay.
Yeah, well, my first
because the next
note...
thing you see is Lightning Pictures.
Yeah, that's my first note. From Lionsgate to Lightning Pictures, the retrofitted purchaser logo undermined by the producer logo.
Yeah. Love it.
And they have a really inflated sense of authorship.
Mm-hmm.
I think here, because it says an Ian Patterson production, a John Carl Buechner film. I'm like, this director is barely famous. Never mind the producer.
Yeah.
Stop saying these names as if they're supposed to mean something to us. People are not well, I don't know. Maybe the people this movie aims at are going, that's the director of Troll.
Kroll.
No, Troll.
Oh, damn.
Did I? What Kroll? I didn't say Troll, not Kroll.
You said Troll, but I heard what I wanted to hear, which was Kroll.
But Kroll had a more famous director, isn't that someone?
I don't know.
That's like a good person who directed. Not that John Carl Buechner's bad.
Yeah,
but,
don't speak ill of him. He died in 2019. Be nice.
Wait. You said he directed a movie in 2021.
Well, he obviously directed it before he died.
Not necessarily.
I was looking straight at his thing. His IMDb page says he died in 2019.
Well, maybe it was a Weekend at Bernie situation, where his corpse directed the movie.
Somebody's just pointing, having his corpse arm pointing to where the actor should stand.
You covered Kroll on the How Dare You podcast, didn't you?
Yeah, love it.
Because I remember you shouting out to me when you talked about how when the British people scream, you can see the fillings in all their teeth. God, it's got a great cast. Peter Yates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Peter Yates.
No, he is a good he directed Bullet.
Sorry.
So, what?
Well, the audience wouldn't know this, but we had a little trouble getting on the
Oh, my emails have just come through?
Yeah.
Yes. There was a bit of a tech breakdown.
Just ding!
Yeah. That was Peter Yates who directed Bullet, so...
Oh, nice.
There's no Bullet in John Buechner, unless Friday the 13th Part 7 is his Bullet, maybe.
Well, maybe that one house explosion moment. It's almost as exciting as that car chase.
I mean, didn't we come to the conclusion that movie is not that bad? Not half bad?
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, my next note is about the the title sequence, which I think is really clever because you have the college sports font, and then a kind of traditional haunted house look. So you've got the school comedy and the. And
I noticed the same thing. Yeah.
So you get the music is speaking to kind of horror movies, but the
I wrote down
I
wrote down I'm liking what I can only describe as college credits.
College credits, yeah, absolutely. And the movie begins as a prequel because it's 21 years ago. So we're kind of effectively creating a brand new timeline for the demons. I was about to say ghoulies then. Well, I just did, but there we go. I was trying to. And along with with every prequel comes a pretty significant retcon, and now it's that the ghoulies can speak.
I said apparently the ghoulies can talk now.
And not only are they verbal, but they speak entirely in puns.
Yes, exclusively almost.
Exclusively in puns, so it's being able to string a sentence together is one leap. The second leap is that they're, these little null cowards who are going around coming up with these witticisms with every word that comes out of their grotesque mouths. And I don't even want to ask you if this incantation stuff is part of the original movie. I'll save that, but I figured as they're going back in time, oh no, they could just as easily be rewriting history with the incantation. So let's just leave that until we cover it on Patreon.
All right, fine. Take it easy.
No, I bear a grudge against you knowing more about these small demons than I do.
Well, that's your cross to bear.
It is, yeah.
But in terms of these, the ghoulies talking, it's funny because it clearly seems to riff off of Gremlins, and yet this is the third movie in this series, so they don't go for that in the last movie. I guess in the last movie they're trying to connect it more to the first movie in the sense of non-speaking. Sorry, spoiler alert, Tom. But but now we're going.
Well, that'd be amazing if they started
talking in that one.
That's like a Dracula Prince of Darkness situation where Christopher Lee said, I've decided Dracula is now mute. It's a condition of me coming back.
That's
that
great.
I don't have a word of dialogue.
I don't want to speak.
Yeah, he literally did that.
That's great. And
then in later years, he tried to pretend that it was integral. No, that's part of the mythology. Dracula does it. Dracula isn't verbal. I'm like, don't think that's true. He has to pretend.
Remember that.
He has to pretend. He spoke a lot in that original Dracula, and also he has to pretend to be human sometimes.
But for the terms of our Ghoulies, it seems like they're trying to connect it to Gremlins, but they also have a real kind of Statler and Waldorf feel to them, don't they?
Three Stooges. I got a lot of that as well. With they're constantly bumping into each other, and of course, one of these Ghoulies is Richard Kind. So
I did not notice that. That's wow. Okay.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Yeah, Richard Kind is one of the Ghoulies.
Oh, that's
voice
great.
of one of the Ghoulies here. After there was like 10 minutes.
How can I mistake his voice?
I know. It's like I'm pretty sure that's Richard Kind, and I looked it up, and it was. So we're getting closer to the Howie Mandel kind of voice actor.
Yeah, right.
Although kind of, it is just a person talking. I mean, Howie Mandel is creating like creature language, but Richard Kind is just basically his character from Curb Your Enthusiasm, but a ghoulie.
Yeah.
That's okay. I had turkey earlier today. That's okay. That's okay. When you come to town, you call. But I don't have any time to see you when I'm here. Doesn't matter. You come to town, you call.
Well, it's funny because when after the credits we get into this, or I think it's during the credits, right? When we're getting this whole mop bucket and shenanigan comedy going on, right?
Well, you've got sped up footage, what I would describe as Evil Dead camera work.
See,
clown
because the
music.
feeling I had, it's funny because we're dealing with the director of Troll,
Mm-hmm.
but it had a very beginning of Troll 2 vibe.
Well, yeah, I've got a note later. I'll save it for later, but I also it also reminds me of a different Friday the 13th movie that was not directed by him.
Okay.
But we'll get there. Yeah, absolutely, and we're talking, and there's a kind of lore shift from magic. I think we talked about this in the last episode, from magic spell books to comic books.
Yeah, right.
But I think it's setting out his stall as being more comedy than horror, and I think that's.
Mm-hmm.
I like the assuredness of the tone, and I think that is an improvement on Ghoulies 2. I never really know where I stand tonally in Ghoulies 2,
Mm-hmm.
but this movie sets out his stall pretty early, as this is going to be a full-blown comedy.
Yeah. And the comic book definitely speaks to that. That makes more sense.
Yeah, it's all part
if
of
it
the
was
same
like a
comedic
wizened,
stew.
old kind of witch book, it just wouldn't feel right.
Not for this movie, no. And I think it's all kind of, and this is why I like the overall concept and why I like the boldness of the approach.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they need to refine it, because comedy horror is a tricky tightrope to pull off, and I don't think they manage it.
Okay.
My operational theory about how this would have been better is that you actually play the Ghoulies as straight as you did in the last movie, because you've got enough comedy going on around them.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you don't need to comicalize them. They could be the horror part of the movie, and then the college part of the movie could be the kind of frivolous comedy part. And I think,
but once you decide to make them talk, you've passed that threshold.
That's it. It's all over.
Yeah,
it's all over before it even
done.
begins. Talk and wisecrack.
Yeah.
Not just talk, but wisecrack. And this, we're straight into the toilet. Straight into the toilet.
Yeah.
But it's a toilet inversion, because now it's defying our expectations of Ghoulies coming out of toilet. You expect the Ghoulie to come out of the toilet, but it doesn't.
And and it even has, like, the toilet itself is fashioned where, like, it's ornate, right? It's got carvings into it.
Yeah. It's more, basically it's the it's like I'm not gonna say wishing well, but pentagram. It's like what happens when the pentagram activates, but a toilet.
But it's so funny considering, well, the last movie started kind of in media res with that priest carrying the bag of Ghoulies.
The bag of Ghoulies, yeah.
So you know, like, you just wonder, how did this Ghoulies toilet get to this college? Why is it there? I like that they don't even bother explaining it to you. I kind of like that.
It's it's interesting because we've kind of, what year is this? 1990?
91.
I have 90.
Oh, I have 91.
Okay. Well, so the IMDb for Krull isn't going to help me then. 1990.
Oh yeah, is
the release date I have here.
Yeah, it says 1990. Okay, that's weird.
But because the last movie is kind of based in the Satanic Panic, that era where the conservatives were saying all this stuff about teenagers trying to summon the devil.
Oh, that's weird. Up top it says 1990. Down below it says release date September 18th, 1991. Like, if you go to the details of the film.
Maybe that's when they renamed it Ghoulies Goes to
Maybe,
College.
Yeah.
So in the 80s you had, conservatives were saying all this stuff about teenagers trying to summon the devil through popular culture. And horror movies, true to form, went, wow, that's a really good idea for a horror movie.
Right.
I made like a subgenre of movies about it. And one of the reasons why I just think horror is such a subversive genre is it's like it takes its own critique and turns it into a genre.
I love it.
But by the time we get to 1990, I think we need to move somewhere else. So I think the idea here is like, those countercultural 1970s comic books, and now the sort of the dangerous object that creates
right.
magic. And so I really like that shift. Again, I think conceptually it's a great shift. They're basically jumping back like 20 years to what people used to say about, what conservatives used to say about EC Comics, right?
Oh, really?
And the damage it was doing to culture. So the idea about it could also be a porthole to hell.
Fantastic. Sorry.
It's all right.
Trying to stretch out my old bones.
Well, speaking of old old broken bones, did you notice another one of our old friends from also associated with Friday the 13th, who appears in the opening sequence of the movie?
Is that the kid on the toilet with the comic?
No, after that. So once we get into, so there's like a Superman 3 style prank chain that happens.
Yeah.
Once we get into
that's true.
Present day.
Very Lester.
And absolutely. And do you know who one of the people in that chain is? Did you notice?
No.
Associated with Friday the 13th.
I don't remember.
One Kane Hodder.
Really?
There's a security guard who's I think he's like dragged on a skateboard as part of the prank chain. That's Kane Hodder in there. That's Kane Hodder.
Fantastic.
Which is wonderful, not only because, you know, he's linked with both the horror franchise, but as I demonstrated in that YouTube video I showed to you, he is also a video prankster.
So good.
Candid Farts, where he goes around with a fart machine.
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen style. I sent Mike a 20-minute video, which is great because the credits reveal at the end. It was directed. I don't think it says written, but directed and produced by Kane Hodder. So it speaks to both sides of Kane Hodder here. So you didn't know Richard Kind and Kane Hodder were in this movie?
I was just wrapped up in the pranks and the yanks, Tom.
And you know, we get back into the toilet they're pretty reserved about their use of the toilet in the last movie, but this is very much all toilets all the time. We've seen two separate toilet scenes. Now, toilet's going to be the word that's said more in this movie than in this episode than Ghoulies. And then we've gone from not Andrew McCarthy to not James Spader.
Yeah, Skip Carter.
With our lead actor as very Spader-esque. But this is pre-Spader as well, isn't it? So he like the original. He laid the groundwork for a James Spader.
I would say
actor.
Spader's around by now.
Wasn't it Sex, Lies, and Videotape that was his breakout? Did he do anything before that?
No, I thought he did some of those kind of high school.
Oh, okay. Well, that would make sense because they've got an actor who very much looks like James.
Yeah, I think
Spader,
he's a late '80s kind of start.
Yeah, but so part of me and my brain is gearing towards prepare for another movie full of not versions of well-known actors, and then you see Matthew Lillard and go, oh, maybe not.
Yeah,
like that really is Matthew Lillard as the archetypal nerd.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, as we've already
his
discussed,
character name, by the way?
No.
Stork.
So, all the teenagers are getting it on, and then he just brings babies to their doors afterwards. That's great. And then we talked about this extensively. You know, our crusty old dean.
Oh, love
which is its own trope
McCarthy.
in this, commented on in The Simpsons, but it's Kevin McCarthy, you know. So you get the double reference of the genre archetype,
right?
Of two separate genres.
So good
because he's a sci-fi creature movie legend.
Yeah,
but he's very much the crusty old dean.
I gotta tell you though, he's giving it his all in this very small movie.
It makes what he does at the end of Invasion of the Body such as look restrained. He goes, it's full-throated through the entire movie, and I think it kind of has to be, because if he stopped and thought about it, he'd probably walk out. So I think the idea, if you just go full pelt all the time, you don't have to think about what you're doing or where you are.
Right.
And of course, another trope we see all the time in these horror movies, or really any movie, if you there's no lesson being taught in a movie that doesn't have something to do with the movie. So he's teaching about Pandora's box.
Yeah.
So I'd love it if for once there was a movie where a teacher was doing a lesson and it had no thematic relevance to the movie, like almost to the point where it was trying not to relate to the movie. I would love that. But also,
let me introduce you to PEDMAS, parentheses. Just, go right to exponents.
Yeah. Or like, they're just teaching like HVAC or something. The only time it doesn't have anything to do with the movie is if it's product placement. I think that's the only time you get anywhere close where...
Boys and girls, have you heard of Pepsi?
Partial credit.
I'll tell you what, I feel like we have a bit of a start. Not as deep as I thought we'd get, but why don't we take our first break anyway, and then we'll come back.
Definitely.
All right.
And Pandora's Box is great because it's also a springboard to, or a spring bird, to unlocking the juvenile humor.
Yeah.
Letting them kind of giggle about the word box. So.
Made me giggle. Box. All right, we'll be back right after this.
I like to think I know something about beer, but nowadays even I get overwhelmed when confronted by the exhaustive selection of craft beers they have at bars, breweries, and even grocery stores. Back in the day you had one, maybe two craft beers to choose from, and if you were confused, you ordered a Guinness. But in beerstinations like San Diego, the craft beer options lately are in double, sometimes even triple digits. So what's a beer drinker to do? You need what I need, the Vegas Beer Guys. Your beer of choice should be a perfect blend of malt and hops. And so a live show about beer needs that same balance. And the Vegas Beer Guys matches beer expert Dan Aker with self-proclaimed beer novice Stephen J. Weiss. The results are eminently drinkable. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. They'll try new beers, they'll tell you about beer. Think of them as your beer Sherpas guiding you up a foamy-headed mountain to reach the peak of your pint. God, I need a beer.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Tom and I are here discussing Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College, or Ghoulies 3, or Ghoulies Go to College.
We're discussing one of those movies.
It's one of those titles.
We're not sure which one it is, but we're discussing at least one of those movies. Well, that's my homework for the
posters?
Poster episode. Find out what happened to the three.
Yeah.
It's like a Sesame Street riddle.
Mm-hmm.
Where did the three go?
Now, so narratively, we find out that our heroes want the prank crown back. Mm-hmm. And then they all...
Perfectly serviceable college movie storyline.
And then they go to... You know what else? It kind of has a Real Genius vibe to it.
Yeah.
A little bit. But
I think it's pulling from all of those and none of those. It actually...
That's the thing, is like the thing about this movie is that it feels like it's wholly its own, but completely familiar.
Yeah. Which is what you want with a genre movie, I think.
Okay.
And I think if it had worked harder at marrying the two genres it was was playing in, it could have been a really good movie. Mm-hmm. As opposed to a bad but interesting movie. This I might have to re-rank.
Uh-oh.
I'll put this at the top of my list.
Uh-oh.
Talking about it now.
We'll wait till the end. You might change.
I'll wait till the end or a future episode. But right now, verbalizing. You see, this is the thing. Like when the Ghoulies became verbal, and now when I'm able to talk about it, I realize that the stuff going on, which is actually really accomplished.
So are you officially on the side of Ghoulies talking good?
No.
Okay.
No, I think that's a mistake.
All right.
I know. I would say everything to do with the reimagining of the Ghoulies in this movie is a mistake, which is one of the reasons that it originally didn't go to the top of my list.
Because they're sticking with puppets, but the puppets aren't as good.
No,
Like,
which is
nowhere near as good.
It's interesting because is that because Buchler has his eye off the ball because he's not doing it? He's directing rather than doing the creature work.
Maybe.
Actually, to me, it looks like they created like a toy range of life-size Ghoulies, and that's what they're using.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the puppets are definitely not as good. The idea to make them verbal and wisecracking, I think, is a mistake.
Okay, good.
I think it's too easy for this kind of a movie. You don't need it. And again, I think if you'd have played the Ghoulies straighter, this would have been actually a funnier movie. That sounds counterintuitive, but you know, Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. Boris Karloff doesn't need to be ripping one-liners the whole time.
He's not going Peter Boyle with it.
Yeah, it's not Boris Karloff. It's another guy, but he's playing the Boris Karloff type of Frankenstein's monster. So he offends so many people there. One, that wasn't Boris Karloff, and two, it's Frankenstein's monster, not Frankenstein.
Now, in my notes, I have... This happens several times because the kid with the comic at the beginning...
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how that comic gets from his toilet to Ragnar's class.
Does he confiscate it? Or find it?
Oh, maybe he confiscates it from him, yeah. Maybe that's it.
Or I may be thinking of Back to the Future Part 2.
But several times in this movie, people are reading from the comic and they almost ghoulie...
They almost ghoulie up a ghoulie.
They almost ghoulie up a ghoulie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not the way I wanted Kevin McCarthy to be reading an EC-style comic out loud, but I'll take it.
Yeah, sure.
And this is where I have to intervene with my Modern Art Corner, because it's not relevant to the movie, but my favorite ever painting is hanging on the wall of the frat house in this scene.
Wait, what is hanging?
My favorite ever painting.
Oh, really?
Wham by Roy Lichtenstein is for some reason hanging on the wall of the frat house.
You said you were going to bring it up.
It's a painting based on a comic panel of a plane crashing. On one side it's like the plane crashing, and then the next panel says Wham in like Batman 66 kind of letters. But anyway.
Okay, because at first I thought it was a painting of the band Wham. When you said Wham.
Okay, it wouldn't be too early for this movie, but it'd be too early for Roy Lichtenstein in the late 60s. Yeah, it's my favorite ever painting, and for some reason it's up here.
Lichtenstein's ghost came up and was like, I really like that band. Paints a little canvas for you.
I suspect the lead singer might be gay.
No judgment.
Well, wait until he gets his dick out in an LA toilet to confirm it for certain. So yeah, I mean, that doesn't add anything to the commentary of the movie, but I can't let it pass given that it is my favorite all-time painting.
All right.
So, and then the campus security guy...
That guy's interesting.
Is Jerry's handyman from Seinfeld.
He's also the guy in The Negotiator that gets on the phone with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
And Samuel L. Jackson is just fucking with him, trying to get him... He's trying to get him to say all the things that he shouldn't be saying, and keeps fucking up.
Yeah, so...
And in this role,
yeah,
it appears as though he auditioned for another role, and they were like,
yes,
no, we're not going to give you that one, but we'll give you this one. And he said to them, I imagine he said, I'm not sure that's in my wheelhouse. I'm not sure I'm the broad comedy guy you want in that moment.
No,
And they
even when he's
assured him he was the guy.
Well, because I'm thinking of that Seinfeld episode, and it's the what makes it funny is how deadpan he is,
Right?
Because he's the guy who just keeps the handyman who keeps asking questions, follow-up questions.
About this
big?
height?
No, about this big.
I can do that.
About this height. Yeah. And then at the end of this, there's a time lapse, and George is like, whatever. But it's funny because saying, like, when I wrote that note, I thought, I feel like we've seen Jerry's handyman from Seinfeld before in this movie. And I feel like in general we just talk about a lot of Seinfeld supporting characters being in the sequels we watch.
Right.
But I feel like we've had a specific conversation about this guy, but I can't think where. I can't think in which movie that is.
Oh, I don't remember.
But you remember him from The Negotiator, which suggests that he's pretty ubiquitous as a character actor.
I feel that's a pretty deep pull.
Yeah, well, I mean, any kind of non-good Kevin Spacey movie, I mean, it people don't even think about them anymore. Like, you know,
sure,
Beyond the Sea or all that, or Life of David Gale. Like,
yeah.
Everyone's sort of like, that's a, you know, what Kevin Spacey's done is a good enough excuse for us to now just pretend those movies didn't happen. When it comes to like Seven and The Usual Suspects and LA Confidential, you can't dismiss them out of hand because they're such great movies,
right?
Or, you know, they're good to great movies. But stuff that isn't good that Kevin Spacey's in,
I don't have to hold on to The Life of David Gale.
Right.
That's for sure.
K-Pax. I mean, give me an excuse not to think about K-Pax.
It's one of those movies where you thought, so that got through every filter, right? The title got through every filter you guys had. K-Pax just flew straight through it, did it?
I saw that in the movie theater. All I remember about it
Me
is
too.
Kevin Spacey eating a raw banana. That's it.
I don't even remember that.
He eats like a raw banana, skin on.
Is David Gale...
And that's not by the way, that's not a euphemism, because the euphemism would work for him too, because I know he's probably into that. But not here.
Is K-Pax... Which one's the one with Helen Hunt and Haley Joel Osment?
Pay It Forward.
Pay It Forward.
Why do I know so much about Kevin Spacey movies? This goes to exactly what I've been saying about like being interested in the wrong people who turn out to be monsters. But I never really liked him. Like, I thought he worked well in a few movies that I liked, but I never liked him as an actor in the way that some people did. So I felt almost quite vindicated when it turned out he was a monster.
I was a pretty big Spacey fan from, you know, like Usual Suspects and Seven. And
well, but in those movies, like, it's the fact that he knows how to be a monster that makes those roles work.
Makes it work.
And, you know, like LA Confidential, like, because it's like the guy's a total sleazebag.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if you as a kind of normal protagonist in anything, like in American Beauty, if you look back at that movie now, you're like, that is the creepiest protagonist.
Yeah, right.
Any fucking...
worst fucking guy ever.
Literally a pedophile.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, different gender from what he's actually interested in, but the same conditions.
Sure. What was I going to say? I was going to say something else about that.
I don't know, but please get us back to Ghoulies.
Okay, fine.
Well, we're talking about college age. Was Mira? I don't know. I don't want to get into that. What's her name? Mina Zuvari. Is that the woman from? Was she even at college? She was like a high school girl, wasn't she?
No, I think she was older when she shot that.
Oh no, I know, but the character was in.
No, the character was in high school. Yeah.
Oh.
Cold chills.
Ghoulie just walked over my grave.
I think a ghoulie just farted in my face.
Well, speaking of sexual excess, sex on an exercise bike is my next note.
Uh-huh.
It's like all the grotesquerie of the 1980s fitness craze. Yeah, so it's kind of like, kind of like the 80s on Overdrive. It feels like this, tits out, exercise by sex is kind of a summation of the 80s.
Yeah, because it feels like a direct reference to 16 Candles.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
That's interesting, yeah. That's a real pull.
Thank you.
No, I mean that for the movie, and it's less of a pull for you because that's right in your memory.
Yeah,
house,
sure. Don't give me less credit.
No, okay, no. You deserve. I didn't notice it, but I haven't seen 16 Candles.
Yeah, I wrote that
since I had 16 candles on my cake.
I wrote that the Ghoulies go to the sex room with all their commentary, like, what a mouthful.
Oh, I know. Which is interesting when we talk about the next movie, because they seem sexually naive in the next movie in a way that they're not
right.
Here. I mean, they're also little people in Halloween masks as opposed to puppets, so I don't know if you can compare apples to oranges, but I had a thought about, like, why, at this point I was like, why did they make them verbal? And I wonder, and because verbal and wisecracking, and I wondered if Freddy Krueger had something to do with it, the kind of...
Oh, well...
The development of Freddy Krueger as a kind of Don Rickles-style insult comic.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense.
We'll see. I mean, it's just
just a short while away.
It's just a short while away before we can get into that, so we don't even need to go into a digression about it. What other awful Kevin Spacey movies are there? No.
The Life of K-Pax.
Also, this is where I really didn't understand how big the Ghoulies were supposed to be. Sometimes they seem as big as the people they're devouring.
Yeah, sometimes they definitely seem like they're coming up at least to their waist, and other times they're only coming up to their knees.
Mm-hmm.
Are you at the part when they're like, what are they, like, they find all the beer? I don't think we're there yet.
I've got a few notes before that. But I think we may have gone over a lot of this stuff. Oh yeah, they kill the rutting teen couple, which is an interesting nod to kind of slasher horror.
Yeah, right.
And, like, the punishment of sexual transgression.
Well, they only kill the boy though. The girl,
that's even better,
survives. They flush the kid. They flush that boy. They flush the kid down the toilet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is great. Yeah, and this is where I wrote that as a self-confessed ass man, this scene should be an equivalent of tit scenes in movies for you, but something about it just didn't quite gel for me.
Okay.
Tits and toilets are the connective tissue of this movie, which makes sense because Ghoulies are all about toilets, and college movies are all about tits. So.
Yeah. And they give you plenty of tits.
Well, this is where I kind of started to think that, this is more Friday the 13th Part 5. Kind of, it feels like maybe Danny Steinman came in and guest directed a few scenes, not John Carl Buechler. I associate him with, like, made-for-TV looking Carrie ripoffs.
Sure.
Not the kind of exploitation porn cinema of Danny Steinman, which this leans more towards.
Did you notice there's a monster cam shot? There's like a ghoulie cam shot.
Yeah.
Of them walking around the living room and stuff. And like one of the couches in the room seemed to appear to be a Jaws couch.
Oh, no, I didn't notice that. Well, that would be the second Jaws reference in 2 movies, so...
Yeah.
I like it. And also, Kevin McCarthy was in Piranha.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that was a kind of double...
A little connect.
Yeah.
Now the Ghoulies do...
And they dress up. This is where I had the Ghoulies dress up.
That's my next note, is that the Ghoulies get clothes. And they grab beer. That's the moment where they go up to the...
They smash a hi-fi.
Yeah. And then it's just MGD and Miller Lite galore.
But what's interesting is... you know, if you're not a Patreon listener, you might not know that we recently covered 2001: A Space Odyssey and paired it with the Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
And in this
for
movie,
reasons that should be obvious.
Absolutely, I'm not even going to mention why we did that for the same reason. But in this movie, there's a 2001 Monolith parody when they open the fridge.
Yeah, right.
So this movie has more to do with 2001: Space Odyssey than Cannonball Run does. That's one more connection that Cannonball Run has. I wonder as well if the fact that because they use the actual music, they use the Strauss, the Richard Strauss. So like,
yeah,
it must be because it's public domain.
I would assume, yeah.
Ghoulies Goes to College ain't paying for no piece of classical music if it's not public domain. But it's a bit redundant getting the Ghoulies drunk, because isn't the whole point that they don't have any inhibitions?
They're
anyway,
rambunctious enough as it is, all on their own.
Which is interesting, because then I checked myself about, well, why is it different for Gremlins? Like, why is it different in Gremlins? Because they're in a bar, they're drinking.
Sure.
It doesn't necessarily change their behavior, but I don't know. So maybe it's got to be all about execution, and the fact that those sequences are about more than just the kind of college movie thing of sneaking beer.
Right. It just seems like the thing to do in a college movie.
Yeah.
Because then you have the added benefit of, well, what happened to the beer? Who took all our beer? And then a minor mystery is unfolded.
Well, yes, a mystery that again doesn't really need the Ghoulies.
Nope.
Yeah, and it's very, you know, that they if it is, this is a if this is a Gremlins ripoff, it absolutely is a Gremlins ripoff. These scenes, but they're going more with the Looney Tunes sides of things. There's no real danger or sense of menace to them.
No, yeah, right. They're just making guys pee on each other.
The train sound effects and the cartoon stars around the head when one of them gets concussed. They're making no bones about it. This is full on comedy. Full on cartoon comedy.
Sure.
And as you say, the mystery begins here and creates this Three's Company style misunderstanding that drives the rest of the movie. Which could, but it's, I don't think you could. Like, I don't know, is the point of a Three's Company style misunderstanding that it's got to go with me on this.
Okay.
It's got kind of a tragic dimension to it in that these people would the misunderstanding portrays what the people are actually doing.
Right.
And that's what makes it a misunderstanding. Whereas here, Gamma House could totally be stealing their beer.
Yeah,
like that's something that Gamma House would totally do, and maybe have done before. Would probably do next year on Prank Week. So I don't know if you can do a Three's Company style misunderstanding when it might as well have been Gamma House who did this, because they would it's like in Cheers when it's the bars, episodes when
Gary's Old Town Tavern.
You know exactly where I'm going with this. That the comedy there is based around did Gary's do this?
Yeah.
And then every year it's different, so it's like some of them like they were working with Gary's against certain people and all that sort of stuff. So, but there's none of those levels here.
No, yeah. And that's the thing too, is that there's not really even a payoff. I mean, the way it's talked about is one line or two, maybe at the very end.
Yeah.
But that's right before they're gonna knock the asshole out anyway.
Yeah.
And he's gone from an innocent person to a legitimate villain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By the end of the movie, our villain, what's that guy's name?
The Goose Stepper. I can't remember what his name is.
Yeah.
He's compared to a Nazi many times in the movie.
Heilman. That's his actual name. The character's name is Heilman.
It's like fucking Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
Or something. It's like the Commandant from Hogan's Heroes. something that only happens in college movies, but never to college boys. And it's a nerd fantasy thing. And I know because I'm a nerd and I'm sure I've had this fantasy.
Go on.
You piqued my interest. Well, no, so basically they're presented with situations where they get a chance to cheat on their girlfriends, or they're like virgins or celibate or whatever, and then a beautiful woman in lingerie just offers themselves to them, and they're always like, "No, I'm sorry, I got to draw the line. I can't do this." And this just doesn't happen. But it's just the kind of, it's just the masturbatory idea of, you know, if a hot woman offered herself to me, I would, you know, I'd be able to turn her down. Like,
yeah,
that's
right.
Like, no, I mean, literally, he'd just be like, and I've just come. So, just looking at you. So, sorry.
Well, and our hero, Skip Carter, seems to find himself with a nearly naked woman at least twice.
Yes. Just to the point that his actual girlfriend
walks through the door.
Yeah.
But it's all very cloudy because she keeps going out with Heilman anyway. So it doesn't seem like they're really together.
Well, it's all about, you know, the not that I'm going to defend the storyline of Ghoulies Goes to College, but the idea is that, you know, either he restrains himself from all his college boy instincts, or she finds someone else. So
yes, I mean, it does.
They're not cheating. They're not cheating on the same level. You know, They're not kind of.
It does seem as though they've taken the Grease logic.
Yeah.
You know,
like... it is Grease logic.
Yeah.
Grease logic, go Grease logic. There are very few times I wish these episodes were like video based, but then when you and I are both doing the wrong movements to Grease Lightning, I think is definitely one of them.
I was Kaneki in Grease in high school.
Oh, interesting. I never did Grease. I did West Side Story a couple of times. Once as Bernardo, which in Brownface, which was an issue then and would definitely be an issue now. It was all kinds of wrong because it was at my college, which was in a large what we call Asian community, so like Indian, Bangladeshi, Pakistani people.
Mm-hmm.
So they were playing all the Hispanic characters, and then their lead, but not even like they. So that's insulting in and of itself. But they didn't even cast someone with a brown face to play the leader of the Sharks. They got a white guy and put him in a brown face. I dyed my hair. I dyed my hair black, and I got a fake tan.
Wow. I always felt like I had the benefit.
And I couldn't dance. There was no reason that that
well,
role should
I
have
could
been
dance,
me.
but I couldn't sing. But I felt like I had the benefit of the people who could sing were totally wooden as actors.
Yes. This is the musical dilemma.
Yes.
This is why if you're a good actor, you can get by in musicals even if you don't have
so I get cast as Kaneki, and considering all the talk of what I don't know about music, you'll like this story. Because I would, during the rehearsal process, I would come off stage and the voice coach would constantly say, you know, you're still singing like probably 3 octaves too high.
Oh, wow.
And I'd say, well, I don't know what an octave is, so I'm going to pretend to be Elvis and we'll call it a day, right?
It's so true. I mean, that's the thing, is that the standard of acting in musical theater is so horrible that sometimes directors will cast people with less talent just so they can get a decent performance.
That's me.
Because some musicals require...
That's me to a T. Less talent.
I mean, what you think about a West Side Story, there's so much dramatic stuff in West Side Story. You can't have people with... You can't have like wooden actors playing these, and that was how I got it.
Mm-hmm.
I think was because I was legitimately scary as this gang leader.
I had no idea you owed such a deep apology to the world.
Yeah, and I was also cast because I was cast as Bill Sykes in the school production of Oliver, which is the Oliver Reed role in the movie. And it got like I was so out of my depth musically that they cut my one song.
A real feel-good moment.
But everyone was just like, "You're legitimately scared." I'm not trying to toot my own home for something I did in high school. People were like, "You're legitimately scary in this role. Like it feels like you're genuinely going to go out there and attack women."
Thank you.
Well, that's what he does. He kills he kills his girlfriend in the movie, in the musical. He kills Nancy, and little kid. There's like the kids, the like first year kids are just like crying in the front row. Anyway,
you mean bastard.
I do remember that. I don't know why. I don't want to dredge out this memory, but the guy we had playing Fagin, he had a Rice Krispie on his nose as a wart, as a fake wart. Good times.
No stone left unturned in a high school production.
No, absolutely not.
Meanwhile, the Ghoulies are drunk and farting and drinking Drano.
Yes. Which makes sense if they come from the toilet.
Sure.
It's like an energy drink to them, isn't it? Essentially, it's like a protein.
Yeah,
it's like a protein shake.
I'd like to talk for a moment about justice for Wes. Wes is the first kid that they flush down the toilet, the sex boy.
I know,
and it's like these fucking frat brothers are supposed to. Frat brothers are always supposed to love each other so much, and it's like there's just lip service. They're like, "Where's Wes?" And then
no one notices.
Not a second worry about Wes for the whole rest of this movie. Poor bastard.
Kind of the same thing happens in Ghoulies 2 as well. That girl, who's part of the belly dancers, disappears, doesn't she? And there's like a scene where the guy runs.
She falls out of the. Yeah.
Yeah. Where does she go? Okay, let's
until her corpse falls out of a mummy case. They're like, oh my god, there she is.
It's kind of one of the interesting ideas of this movie, and where I think that their choice of a locale is justified, is that I like the idea that during prank week, Ghoulies can pass unnoticed.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone will just assume that it's just one of the frat houses doing a prank.
Sure.
So this is the perfect time to have Ghoulies on your campus if they want to go under the radar.
Yeah.
So I like that idea. But also the thing that is muddy here is about who you're supposed to be rooting for, because Kevin McCarthy is enslaving the Ghoulies. So once again, they feel a bit more like victims than they necessarily should. Like we want them to get one over on him.
Sure.
Because he's the real villain.
He's the real villain. Yeah, right.
And maybe it's just a college movie thing, but everyone's behavior is just so reprehensible. It's hard to identify with anyone.
There's a lot of muddy stuff. The back and forth between Skip and Aaron Riddle, played by Ava LaRue. We've seen her before. Do you know where from?
No.
She's in RoboCop 3.
As who did she play?
I don't know. My research didn't take me that far.
Do you know what this means? As long as you have absolutely no follow-up questions, yes.
Yes.
Eva LaRue, I got her here. Wow, she's stunning, actually.
Yeah, she's still beautiful.
RoboCop 3, Debbie Dix.
Yeah, see? I saw the name and it didn't help me at all.
No, it didn't help. It doesn't.
So
help
I didn't
either.
write it down.
She's known for RoboCop 3, CSI Miami, where she plays Natalia Boavista.
Wasn't she on a lot of episodes of that?
Oh yeah, she's 153 episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, so Natalia Boavista is a recurring character. Oh yeah. I remember her. She was the replacement for the Republican woman from West Wing, I think.
Emily Proctor.
There you go.
I don't think anybody has ever better cast than Emily Proctor in that role in West Wing.
No, I mean, you look at the White House press secretary now, the one for Bush, that woman who was on The View. They're all that the Republican blonde.
Yeah.
All the Fox News anchors. It's all the same disease.
Because what's his name? Our Skip goes to Veronica's, and Veronica's the sex maniac with the tits, and Wes's girlfriend.
Yeah.
But he has one of those misunderstandings again where Miss LaRue walks in on him in what he thought was something
like
innocent.
A sketch that's like a parody of that, where, you know, like every time they're in the proximity of a woman where there's potential for a misunderstanding, the girlfriend appears and his hands immediately go on her tits, and it's like, I don't know why I did that. That was just a reflex. I'm nervous. It was a reflex. Oh, well, this is where we get the librarian researching the history of comics.
I don't remember that.
The librarian played by, who gets knocked off pretty quickly, played by Marsha Wallace.
Marsha Wallace? Okay.
Yeah. Who, I'm assuming you know who that is.
Yeah.
Simpsons voice actor.
And doesn't Barkus the cop, he gets electrocuted right before that?
I've written like young Einstein style electrification, which is, and it's all like all this.
I thought it was Wile E. Coyote style.
Yeah, it's all Wile E. Coyote stuff. There's this anything that counts in this movie as a scare is all cartoonish and comedic. The tongue stretching, right? None of this is designed to be anything other than entertaining. There's no horror in it at all. And I think they could have had a balance. Like I think the Ghoulies could have stayed as menacing as they were in the last movie, because what's around them is crazy enough to.
Yeah, I mean, this. I'm looking at further notes down the line, and I'm just like, this movie's insane.
Yeah,
this movie is completely fucking nuts.
The plunger kill, right?
Yeah.
That goes like it's pure. It makes it's as plastic as it can be. The cartoon stretching of his face.
Mm-hmm. Ragnar kind of resummons the Ghoulies and threatens to burn the comic.
Yeah.
Unless they do his bidding, kind of a thing.
Anytime they get anywhere where there's potential for body horror, they always go in the other opposite direction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Cartoon, like anti-realism.
Right.
I have a note here about the fake Indian guru voice with the music.
No, I don't think I have that.
And then the Ghoulies have no dicks. Oh, I've got a question for you.
Well, maybe you should save it.
I definitely want to save it because this is.
Yeah. Okay.
It's another sex question.
All right. Let's break for sex, and then we'll come back.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Right after this, everybody.
Let's go for a quick.
Yeah.
Did you know that the Everything Sequel podcast has a sequel? It's our Patreon, and for a low monthly donation, you can get up to 2 exclusive, full-length, ad-free bonus episodes. $5 a month gets you an episode discussing all the original movies from the series we've covered on the podcast. And that's a lot of snakeheads. But $10 a month scores you the reboot to boot. Support Everything Sequel on Patreon and reap the benefits of amazing brand new content you quite literally can't get anywhere else. Got more money than sense? We also offer one-time payments that will get you in the driver's seat of the podcast. Maybe even the passenger seat. That metaphor doesn't work, but our show does. So join the Patreon and believe the hype. It's a sequel.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Tom and I are here, trying to decode the final part of Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College. Or Ghoulies Go to College. We don't even know.
We don't.
But you had a sex question.
I did. So, You're more world. I think you're more worldly than I am. Maybe.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. Well, maybe the answer to this question will reveal that.
We'll definitively define that.
Have you ever considered using a dustbuster as a sex toy?
Trying to remember back to the early days.
No, I don't think so. I don't want to seem like a prude, but there's a scene where they're in Skip and his girlfriend are in bed.
Yeah.
And he takes out a dustbuster and goes vroom vroom, and
Yeah.
she looks, as if he brought out like a rabbit, kind of. And I'm like, how would that even work? And why isn't this just like a regular sex toy?
Yeah.
Like a novelty sex toy? Like,
well, I've never.
What's
thought...
it gonna do? Is it gonna? Because it would. If it. Oh, I don't want to get too graphic on this, but it would tighten, which. Oh, I guess is it there? Oh no, I was gonna say, is it there to retighten? Forget it. I'm in too deep. I'm tapping out. I'm sorry. I apologize to everyone. I know our last female listener has gone anyway, but to all the male listeners left with self-respect, I apologize. Forget it.
Watching you walk into and out of that cave was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet it was. But and I realized as I was saying it, well, the probably like in 1990, like they'd have to send some poor runner off to a sex shop, versus there's a dustbuster right here. It won't cost us any money if we just act like it's a known sex toy.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of Mandela effect everyone into believing that it's always been a sex toy.
I think at that time it was one of those things, because I can't remember. I can pull the exact image. I kind of want to say it's Jim Carrey, but I don't know for sure. But I also remember egg beaters, like somebody in the final shot of a scene coming out with the egg beaters, and like that was their. Maybe I've Tom Hanks, maybe Tom Hanks and Bachelor Party.
That's just lazy using an egg beater.
It's just one of those things.
Because you can do that
sense.
you can do that with your hands. You can move, as Viv says in Spinal Tap. Yeah, I've got two hands. It's you can move your hands omnidirectionally, right? That's all an egg beater is.
I feel like I'm crawling back into your cave.
Yeah. Be very wary of this hole that you see right in front of me, okay? Because it's not a good hole. That's what she said.
Yeah, like what a dustbuster with the sucking.
This is where. Well, that's what I'm thinking. But
on a clitoris, is that where it's going?
I hadn't thought about the clitoris, which will be no surprise to any woman who knows anything about me.
I haven't thought about the clitoris.
Not in general. I mean, in relation to the dustbuster, I think we solved it. You know what? You've sealed up that hole with the dustbuster. Also, I think you're onto something in the sense that in 1990 you could just show a dustbuster and get a laugh from the audience because it's such a new piece of technology. Because I remember in Seinfeld, Kramer comes in on one episode and says, "I just wanted to borrow your dustbuster," and then he just stands there and goes vroom, like that, and the audience are loving it.
Yeah, right.
And he's trying. It's where Jerry doesn't want him to smell the perfume that Calvin Klein ripped off that he pitched.
That's right.
The beach. And so he's like, Jerry's kind of sprung vroom, vroom, vroom in the air to try and suck it out. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's just the time for, like Clinton jokes in the next movie. It's just the time for dustbuster references. All right, well, we got out of that relatively unscathed, I think. Or at least you did.
Barely. Matrix style bullet dodging.
Well, I think there's some shrapnel in some of our body parts, but we did okay. So I had a moment here. So at this point in the story, Aaron is like, I don't want to be with this Nazi guy anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he kidnaps her.
Yeah, I don't like Heilman.
Heilman.
I don't know what I was thinking.
There's something about him that makes me think of him committing suicide in a bunker in 1945. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But then, like, story-wise, she gets away. And I breathed a sigh of relief, like, whew. Because the next stage is, they gang rape her. Like,
yeah, right.
That's the next logical stage in the story. I'm like, oh, phew. And then minutes later, she's on a torture rack getting stamped. I'm like, oh, okay. So it wasn't that they foresaw the potential for, like, a rape scene that didn't need to be there. They were just like, no, we want to save her for the torture scene that's coming up. So I was like, oh, okay. I see where this is going. Weirdly enough, and this is something I want to talk about in Ghoulies 4, I think the level of female empowerment really shifts between Ghoulies 3 and Ghoulies 4 in a somewhat positive way, and I'll leave it there.
That's all I have to say for now.
That's all I have to say about it.
Now, what happens next? Because I have a note here that Ragnar McCarthy is asking the Ghoulies to kill him, but they kill Miss Biggs instead, right?
Yes. So the Ghoulies have turned the tables on him because she's the gatekeeper of the law. So if you take her out of the picture, he has less control over them. I think maybe I'm giving the movie far too much credit there. Actually, that's mostly headcanon, I think. That's what I would have done in my movie.
Of course.
But there's a real come down here, and I guess it's appropriate to the genre itself. But in the last movie, to defeat Ghoulies, you needed to summon a giant cannibal version of a ghoulie.
A giant ghoulie.
Here, glue in the eye will do. That'll take care of it. That'll solve all your problems. So that's a very college specific weapon to use there. Glue in the eye. There's always glue around in a library or in a
There's glue everywhere at a college.
Yeah, you got to, especially back then, because you had to make collages and stuff and glue stuff together.
Where are we? Because
towards they're trying to they get torture rack.
But what about did we get what? What's my goddamn note? Because the non-skip guys all kind of get lured by the women.
Yes.
For the panty raid.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the panty raid's going on in this time. I forgot about that, yeah. And then the
Ghoulies are watching the women shower, including Veronica. This is where Veronica finally gets it, right?
Yeah. That's real soft porn stuff there. That's the Danny Steinman of this movie.
One of the Ghoulies approaches the shower. It's like Monster Cam.
Yeah.
Kind of bobbing up and down, approaching Veronica. And he just says out loud, "I'm sporting half a chubby."
Oh. Whoa. That's sinister.
Terrible.
What would these women think if they looked down and saw
half a chubby?
A ghoulie? They'd be like, it was one of the sorority sisters didn't know they were pregnant and accidentally gave birth to a fetus in the shower, and here it is.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Well, thank you for reminding me of those horrors.
You're welcome.
I've totally forgotten about the panty raid. But yeah, I mean, they're always throwing in these, these obligatory genre tropes.
Mm-hmm.
The panty raid, prank week, crusty old Dean, tits, sexual misunderstandings, nerds.
Yeah.
Technology-obsessed Asians. It's all there.
All the tropes.
All the tropes.
Yeah. And then McCarthy has this moment where he brings the Ghoulies back and he says, "I want you to kill Skip.
Mm-hmm.
Kill the head prankster and everything will be okay."
Cut the head off the snake. Yeah.
Cut the head off the snake. And I remember thinking, I think that crusty old Dean's crossed a line now.
You win this round. This is a dean who definitely didn't play bass in The Pretenders.
Yeah.
Unlike Homer's college dean.
Dustbuster 6.
Maybe I've been a little bit of a monster too. Yes, you have. There's a dissolved body at one point, which I feel like if you can't get body horror out of this, you're never gonna get body horror.
Sure.
And it just turns to gunge.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a children's TV game show level of design. It's not even like disgusting. It's like pure. It's just like, silly putty or something. And we get it. I've written here, I don't remember the details, but we get a new ghoulie at the end of the movie. Does that happen? Do you remember that? No?
Where are you? I had, let's see.
We summon a new monster, which a new ghoulie that we haven't seen yet. I think.
Oh, I did put Uber Ragnar Ghoulie appears.
There you go. Oh, is it like it's like a Ragnar?
So Ragnar turned into a ghoulie, I think.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
But it's kind of the same as they did in the last movie. Like,
yeah, kind of.
Like let's we create a brand new ghoulie at the end of the movie, a human-sized ghoulie.
Mm-hmm.
If indeed the ghoulies are not already human-sized, which this movie does not make clear.
Because I think they flushed the comic book, and then that flushes Ragnar into the toilet.
Agreed.
Along with, I think, all the other ghoulies.
And also, I didn't really understand that this was a part of a story arc for Skip until he said the line out loud. But he says, "I am staying at college."
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I don't remember. Is this an issue? Is he gonna get expelled?
He thought he was gonna get kicked out.
Okay.
He had resigned himself.
You were following this.
Yeah, I was following it.
This. Okay.
But
yeah, all college movies have to be about staying at college. This is like House Party 2.
Yeah, it's all pretty vague because at one point
go to college.
He gives up pulling yanks, and by yanks I mean cranks.
Or cranks.
And by cranks I mean
pranks.
Because like there's one moment in the middle of the movie where he kind of buckles down after he even thinks. I mean, we skipped over some stuff. I remember
Not really.
Heilman frames him for a desk prank against Ragnar.
Yes.
And that's what kind of puts him in the doghouse. Like, you're going to be, thrown out.
Okay.
But it's all kind of in a gray area.
No one looks like they're doing. I mean, it's just a trope of these movies. No one looks like they're doing any work. Like every character in every college movie you ever see would all drop out before the events of the movie begin. None of them would make it to like whatever year of college they're supposed to be in.
Sure.
Unless they were like sports heroes. Which none of them are.
No.
None of them are in this movie.
Yeah, no. But they flush Ragnar down the toilet. They've won the day, and then that's the moment the rest of the frat boys come home and they make up. Because they'd broken up at some point, right? That was part of Skip's changeover, where he's like, "I'm done with pranks and yanks and cranks, you assholes," and they're like, "What?"
Yeah.
One of those guys is also the kid from Summer School, which I think you previously have stated you haven't seen. And
have not seen Summer School, no.
Yeah, you're a monster.
Anything to do with ski school?
No, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Because it's in the summer.
Well, I understand. But is it part of the same series?
No. Okay. Just Mark Harmon teaching Summer School.
There's no just about Mark Harmon.
I know.
Oh, so is it like a bit of a Breakfast Club kind of thing?
Kind of, yeah. It's Kirstie Alley's in it. Courtney Thorne-Smith is a student.
Holy moly!
It's very funny.
I like the sound of that's a good people in there.
Yeah. And anyway, this his best.
Courtney Thorne-Smith is the Ally McBeal.
Yeah.
Actor, right?
Yeah.
And Melrose Place.
Sure.
Have you ever seen that interview she did on Conan, where Norm Macdonald is is sitting on the couch, and she's talking about a movie she's doing with Carrot Top.
He said board, the chairman of the board, but it's spelled Bored.
And Conan keeps baiting him to say to because he's interrupting constantly. And she said it doesn't have the project doesn't have an official title yet. And Noah's like, I've got a great title, Box Office Poison. He was a genius. Well, so like you say, everything is kind of resolved. It was a very Grease ending, because by the end, what the woman learned was to let the boy remain an immature guy who still pranks. And doesn't someone literally say, "Let's party"?
Ooh, I don't know.
And then a party begins.
I didn't write that down.
Like the end of that Simpsons episode with Rodney Dangerfield, where suddenly like flower necklaces descend from the sky and Journey starts playing. It's like, don't question it, it's a party.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's interesting because the last movie did a toilet-based jump scare to end the movie. But it was audio in nature. You saw I was
gonna say, it's more
outside of the outside of the porta potty.
Yeah, and you just hear it,
and then you hear it. But here we do it all visually because you see a steaming toilet and a green arm come out. So it's the same jump scare but done visually rather than in audio. So that's interesting. Yeah, that's all I have.
Me too. Why don't you give us a credit check?
Yeah, well, one of these we've already mentioned, Marsha Wallace. So, again, so it's pretty decent roster of actors who are still with us today in these movies. I love related crew members.
Yeah.
Scenic artist Molly Beth Allen and Molly Jo Allen. So I was trying to they have the same full name but a different middle name. What does this mean? Does this mean that they just are both different? Are they different Allens? Or I thought maybe they're twins.
Or one person has a split personality.
Well, maybe twins. Hence twins. That's where my mind went. That they were given different middle names to distinguish between them. Do you know who's controlling the Ghoulies in this movie while John Carl Buchner directs?
No.
His wife. Or whoever Lynn Buchler is.
That's awesome.
So they're keeping the.
For a hot second, I thought you were going to say Kane Hodder.
I'm sure he had a feel of him at some point.
Nobody understands that I made the Ghoulies move in a different way that was really inventive for Ghoulies Go to College. And if if you're paying attention, if you look right at it, it's pretty obvious.
That's not even a joke, because he is the stunt coordinator in this movie, which is how he ended up in the Superman 3 style prank chain.
Nice.
And this must be where he got his gift for comedy that he shows in Candid Farts. Location ghoulie operators, which to me sounds like something that like a sex toy you order and this is what it's called on your credit card bill. Right? Location ghoulie operator. Disconcertingly vague reference. Recordist Mark Frito Long and Steve Woody Wood. So this is the difference between artful and artless nicknames. One of them has a cryptic meaning, the other is just a different version of their last name. And then I had a note that the re-recording facilities for this movie was at Skywalker Sound South. And I'm sure this isn't true, but I like to think that Skywalker Sound South is where they send the movies to be dubbed that they're not that proud of.
Yeah.
So, once the cans for like a truck with the cans for Ghoulies pulled up, it's like, that's for Skywalker Sound South.
No, yeah, somebody says...
Keep going. Just keep going. A little further.
They're assigning, and somebody says, Ghoulies 3, north or south? South.
Oh, South, definitely a South. Don't let George know there's ghoulies on premises.
I had one credit check note that made me laugh. It's when I saw the THX sound logo come up at the end of the credits.
Well, that's the Skywalker sound,
and that's
I guess.
the Skywalker sound. I thought you were going to give it up on the logo. I think that's so funny that this movie has THX.
Because you said, yeah, it's interesting because you don't have a money corner because of its video, but that implies that, I mean, they had a like an ADR budget,
right?
That you know, it can't be cheap to use Skywalker sound at all,
right?
Even the South Wing of Skywalker. I wonder if it literally is just a bunch like a shanty town. With a guy with like a like a phonograph, just kind of old timey sound effects.
I hope so.
That's the end of my credit check.
All right, well that's it. We're what, halfway through?
More than halfway through. Halfway through our episodes.
Yeah.
More than halfway through the movies.
Correct.
We're 2/3 of the way through the movies. And given that Ghoulies 4 is 84 minutes, we're pretty much 75% through at this point.
Yeah, oddly, I think that movie has the most notes for me, though.
Oh, sure.
Because there's just crazy shit happening at a rapid pace in that movie.
Plenty to talk about.
All right, well, you're going to have to tell us what you think before we can get to Ghoulies 4.
You're going to have to find a way to watch Ghoulies Goes to College. Hopefully it's still available on Pluto TV or...
I think that's
MGM
the hardest
Plus.
one to get, right? Ghoulies 2 is on MGM. Ghoulies 4 is on Prime.
Yeah.
Ghoulies 3, I had to watch commercials.
Yes.
Because it was Tubi or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think either Tubi or... I actually think it was Plex.
Okay.
Which I always feel like should be illegal.
Yeah, well, what I don't like is stretching an hour and a half movie to like an hour and 50 minutes because I'm watching so many fucking commercials.
Yeah. For some reason, it's more annoying than when it happens on TV. Where presumably there's more commercials and it takes longer, but for some reason, because it's broadcast, it doesn't feel the same as... Because you expect streaming to be commercial-free. Unless
right, like if I'm paying for... Prime does this now, I'm paying for commercial free, and yet there are some movies on Prime that is like, this is only available with a commercial.
Well, honestly, there are so many times where, you know, I'm like, okay, I bought my ad-free Prime, and then I click on, and the first thing it shows me is an ad for another Prime show. I'm like, well, you've already broken your contract to me by showing me an ad. Just because I can skip it doesn't mean it's not ad-free if the ball's still in my court to not watch this. When you say ad-free, that means no ads
no
at
ads.
all. Even for the stuff that's on Prime. I'll find the stuff on Prime. I have access to it because I bought ad-free Prime.
Yeah.
I'm not the person you need to be advertising this to. I fucking know what's on Prime because I've got Prime. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you've seen the redesigned Prime logo.
No.
But if you thought Jeff Bezos' rocket looked like a dick, my God, that arrow is as dick-like as it's ever been. Next time you go on Prime...
What, the smile?
That's the crookedest smile I've ever fucking seen, if that's supposed to be a smile. It's pure phallus now. It's pure phallus now.
Oh, okay.
Look at it. Next time you go on Prime, take a moment to...
Bask in the glory?
Bezos isn't even pretending that everything isn't a phallus that he's involved with anymore. Couldn't believe it. I literally reeled.
I can put my dick anywhere!
In space.
All right. Well, yeah.
In your TV sets. Wherever I choose, because I am Bezos. Bringer of suffering.
That does sound like the next Marvel villain. I am Bezos.
But that's the interesting thing. It's like with Amazon owning Bond now, they basically wouldn't be allowed, even though they got the rights to it, they wouldn't be able to do Blofeld because it's too much like Jeff Bezos. The baldness and the rockets and the supervillainy. I wonder who they're going to have as their... They can't have a megalomaniac villain anymore because they're owned by a megalomaniac.
Hey,
So
tone this guy down. He doesn't seem that bad.
So maybe they're just going to go back to Robert Davi-style drug smugglers.
Yeah. Davi. Love him.
Or what was the Dominic Green from Quantum of Solace, who was just like a public utilities fraudster?
Just try... Yeah.
The guy who's just trying to sell you like solar panels.
Solar panels, right.
Look, I'm just trying to reduce your energy budget here.
If you don't take these solar panels, I'm gonna have to shoot you in the head.
That's what we're gonna go back to.
None of that has to do with Ghoulies 3. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to tell us what you think about Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College, or the Ghoulies Go to College, you're gonna have to find us where you find us. Hit all those buttons and send all those things. What is a tweet now? Just an X? Send an X?
Yeah. Yeah.
Send a thread. Send a gram. Send a book. Send a ski.
Yeah. Send us a physical ski.
Was it Cher and Clueless when she's trying to give things away to some needy people, and her dad's like, "Why are you giving them skis? Daddy, do you really think that people didn't lose sporting equipment?"
That's great. That's great.
Or send an email to everythingsequel@gmail.com. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Done with Ghoulies 3.
We graduated.
On to Ghoulies 4. Graduation.
Yeah, we've thrown our hat caps in the air. Yes.
Still waiting for them to land.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for us. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions, Michael Shantz here of the How Dare You Awards. Like I said, when you hear us next, we'll be talking Ghoulies 4. Say goodbye to everybody, Tom.
That smells like the day my mother found whiskers in the dryer. It's like the throwaway equivalent of the Santa story from Gremlins.
Yeah.
On a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
Expressed much more concisely.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll be back.